Welcome back to the Intermat Wrestling Podcast. We've got Robbie, Kevin, and Austin along with myself here to bring some of the nonsense and talk about some of the nonsense that we've seen lately. And
Let
I'm
me
not
let me kick
even,
off this. Let me kick off this nonsense.
go ahead.
Earl Smith, you and I, we're gonna have words. You besmirched the good vest wearers of this country, and I do not appreciate it. So I'm gonna sit here in my UVA vest. Shout out to Jenny Aiello. Big thanks. Love me some Aiello family. JIL had back points on Max team. Let's just throw it out there now too. Uh,
I
but yeah,
concur.
Earl was talking some mad shit about vests in our group chat today. So when I see him next time I go up to Northern Virginia, we're gonna have words.
So it sounds like we're in the feelings of the ACC right now, where Robbie has started off as a complete homer. I'm not saying I
Nonsense.
disagree. I'm not saying I disagree with any of the statements you said
I
about back
will I
points.
will fight anyone who says that Jay did not have back points. That is some straight bullshit.
I listen. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that I agree with it, but I didn't expect you to go full on homer as soon as I hit record, but I'm okay with it. So we're just gonna keep rolling with the nonsense and the nonsense of I guess the flavor of the month. We're only what 4 days into September.
Yes, we are.
Um, and the way that we ended August and rolled into September was with Breaking Mead of what is it, Pursuit Wrestling, I think it's called, going full just I don't even know what to
Idiot.
call it. Well, just it was just dumb. Like, and I thought he was kidding. I didn't think that he was when I saw the video, I was like, okay, he has this rapport with his wrestlers, which I've had with coaches over the years, that you can say certain jokes and you can joke around and this, that, whatever. I hated the fact that he started it off with Carter Sirachi's making 1.2, 1.3 million. Don't pocket watch. It's the dumbest thing ever to do.
Also, love that he got corrected by an 8-year-old. That was fun.
Yeah, right. But like the the way that it segues from that into you should be held back. First of all, you use Carter Sirachi, who wasn't a holdback, who was 18 when he won his last Pennsylvania state title. So there's that piece of information. You also threw in there that there's now 30 scholarships up for grabs. Let me just let everybody know, not one team is going to hold a roster of 30 scholarships. There's not 30 schollies that are up for grabs on any team. Football wise, there's not 105 that are up for grabs for football when these rules change. So you go from pocket watching to bad information to, in my opinion, a terrible influence. And
Trifecta.
it like you right, it just went from bad to worse. And like I said, I originally thought he was kidding. Like you can go in any wrestling room and see jokes and whatever else. You guys are parents and coaches, and we've been in tons of wrestling rooms. We've seen it. But then I saw the video where Piles said he reached out to him. Good on Piles to do your due diligence and just be like, hey, what's the story behind this? And apparently he dug his heels in and he thinks that it is his position and it's his responsibility to tell a kid whether or not he should be held back. And um I'm gonna let Robbie hold back a little bit for now. I'm gonna start with Kevin as a dad because I know how Robbie already feels about this. Austin's kids, my kids are non-existent right now, so I don't really have much of a say. I just think it's stupid all in itself. But Kevin, I want to hear your take on when you saw this video and then when you heard that it wasn't a joke. And as a parent, as a dad, as a coach, whose job is it to tell a kid that he should be held back?
I mean, the teacher, I would think, in some level of collaboration with the family and understanding what has gotten in there, what efforts have been made to make those changes and figure out a way for that student to progress at the academic level that they need to, or not. Obviously, that's like the second level. The first level is is like club coach. You go there first and you figure out what sort of act or athletic advantage can my, 10-year-old third grader have if we hold him back a couple years, right? It's the Happy Gilmore plan. We made the joke in the group chat, but that's what it is. It's insane. Like, of course, Happy Gilmore is better at dodgeball. He was a grown man.
Billy
All right?
Madison. We're going Billy Madison.
My
There we
apologies.
go.
Yeah, Billy Madison, not Happy Gilmore. My apologies. Sorry, Sir Adam Sandler. But yeah, I mean, it's that plan. It's ridiculous. I was disgusted. I mean, I can't throw out that many more frustrated terms.
What if your kid comes home and says, "My coach told me that I should be held
we're
back"?
immediately looking for a different club. There's enough clubs.
Oh, I'm having words with that coach first, though, before we start looking for it.
Yeah. How dare you? Like, that's insane.
Shut the fuck up. That's the first thing that's gonna say.
Dude, yeah, don't talk to my kid about any of that. That's not what we're here for,
Yeah, Robbie, you had a take that you said on Twitter where you kind of went with, as a parent and a teacher in this regard, the craziness of this. One, have you ever had conversations like this with any student, or have you guys ever talked to any of your athletes like this?
No, I've had conversations with students about this. So let's preface this. I've been a high school teacher and coach, and worked with high school, middle school age kids for the last 20 years. I'm a special ed teacher by trade, I guess, by profession. So my day-to-day interactions with kids who are lower than the typical high school student, and would be in a situation like this. With that in mind, it's a fucking terrible take, and it's not your position as a club coach who has no bearing on their education, probably knows nothing about their education or their level of functioning in school, to have that conversation with them, joking or not. And when I first saw it, I thought, maybe he's just joking around with these kids. He's got a, for some reason, this is a weird joke that he's got as a club coach. I don't find the humor in it, but to each his own, I guess. But
some people
as
just
a
aren't
parent,
funny,
Yeah, that's some people shouldn't try to be funny. As a parent, I cannot express to you how angry I would be if one of my sons came home and said, Dad, my coach said that I need to get held back. Well, does he know a fucking thing about how you're doing in school? Does he know that you're a better reader than he probably is? Let's not play these games. This is a kid's actual future. And in regard to the 30 scholarships that he was misinformed about, I got messages from 3 different coaches, not even just ACC coaches, but 3 different coaches saying this guy has no idea what he's talking about or how this is going to work. Anybody who thinks there's going to be 30 scholarships is fucking stupid. So
that's sadly mistaken. Like, that's just ridiculous.
So I apologize for the language. We're going to have to put the explicit tag on this one. But
Robbie's hit his threshold, but I'm glad that we did it in the beginning so that the rest of us, we can be completely clean the rest of this conversation. But yeah, I mean, I hear you. Like, he's completely wrong about all these things. And like I said, Austin, your kids are still young. And now that you've heard everybody else's takes on these things, and even mine, I started school early. I graduated high school at 17. I didn't start school, and I started as a 4-year-old, in kindergarten, and then I graduated 17. I turned 18 in October of my freshman year of college. So for me, I mean, I'm completely satisfied with the athletic career that I had. Would I have liked a couple more championships? Sure. But I was fortunate enough to win a championship in every single sport that I ever played growing up, and had very high level people. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is like, I guess it's probably more of a hat tip to my teammates than it is to me, but like, you have those really great experiences, right? But I say all that to say this is, Austin, your kids are young. How many years are you going to hold them back now that you know all the takes and you know how terrible all of these things are?
Pennsylvania mandates 2 years, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, my kid is right now 2040. I made him 2042. So I took his advice and doubled it. Now I'm holding him back 2 years. No, but in all seriousness, I was actually one of those holdback kids, but it wasn't in grade school. It was preschool. So like it was decision that was made before any athletic talk was even introduced and any really educational value was introduced. And that came from my grandparents who held back my uncle. And it just, my dad and my mom decided, my uncle was really mature for his age and it helped out him. So maybe it'd help out our son too. And it just happened. And
Austin just couldn't throw a ball until he was 6. So
I mean, I thought I was lefty. I learned I was righty, when I was 7 or 8, but
Well,
for me, I think it did work out because
just a comment
I was
on
a
that.
little more mature and, I felt that a little bit growing up, but like it doesn't matter. Everyone's their own individual, right?
Real quick, just to comment on that too. That is like common with preschool, right? I know like there's a whole separate like young fives thing where it's like, they're not quite ready for kindergarten, they're going to be ready. And again, that decision is never made with the consultation of the youth coach.
Yeah,
of the club coach for that
matter.
matter.
The club coach. Yeah.
Of the completely optional coach. Let's be honest, like club coaches are optional. I mean, it may seem in, today where everyone's like, you have your normal coach and you have your club coach where everyone is going to a certain club, right? But like the club coach is optional. You can play multiple sports. You can be a multi-sport athlete. It is okay to do wrestling during wrestling season and maybe do a couple other sports outside of that and then go play baseball or go run track or go play football during like it happens, guys. Like it is okay for a wrestler to not just be a wrestler. The number of offensive linemen in the NFL who wrestled is incredible. Tom Brady's favorite lineman in Tampa was a high school wrestler. Like, let's call it what it is here, So no, I know I kind of put that one on a tee and I knew how much we all hated that take, but like it needed just a little bit more discussion to have some nuance with people who are parents and teachers and coaches. I was a coach for a number of years as well. And I was just like, that's never something that even crossed my mind or any of my friends for that matter, that are coaches, that it was just like, yeah, we're going to hold him back and, make sure that he's good. Like it was just not a thing, So
what I think that kind of comes across to me is it's not something you hear school coaches saying, high school coaches, middle school coaches.
Yeah.
And not necessarily just in wrestling, but like it's more of one of those, I feel that it's more one of those, like, this is a youth coach who thinks, because he's a good youth coach, he's going to know what's right for the kids moving down the line, when he doesn't really have an understanding of the progressions that they need to make, off the mat or off the field, whatever it is. And I mean, like Kevin said, it's not uncommon, and like Austin's situation, it's not uncommon at all for young kids to be held back. It's a lot easier to identify their developmental milestones and if they've hit them or not than it is for, an 8th or 9th grader, 7th, 8th grader to be held back before they go to high school. Like that's a whole different, I mean, there's so many more variables that go into that. And I think it's a disservice to all those kids to be joking about that, and B, the fact that he doubled down on it just blows my mind. And I think, I mean, that's a bigger conversation about people in wrestling not changing their minds when they're presented with good evidence. But all these people who have a better understanding of the situation than you do are weighing in on this and telling you, giving you good reasons why this is not a good idea and how it's probably harmful to the kids in the long run. But you're going to double down and say it is your position and it's the right position, and you're not going to be swayed. I don't know. It blows my mind that people can become so entrenched in something that they're so clearly wrong about.
Yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about holdbacks. Like that is one thing.
No.
I don't think any of us are against holding a kid back if it's
If
necessary.
it's appropriate.
Even I don't even at any situation, I don't care what your excuse is. You want to hold the kid back for athletics, that's between you and your parents, right? But I think he is wrong in the sense where he thinks it's his responsibility to have that conversation with the coach, and it's not the parents' responsibility to do that, or excuse me, have that conversation with the kid, and not the parents' responsibility to have that conversation.
And then to blast it on social media.
And yeah, like that was the thing, is like you puffed your chest out, and then you're seeing videos where he's complaining that a guy wouldn't fight him at a trampoline park, and it's just like, okay, I'm
I missed that one.
starting to see. Yeah, I saw that one.
I guess
But I'm
Robbie
just
wasn't
like,
at a trampoline park recently.
I'm just, yeah.
I'll throw some blows at trampoline park. Come off the
It's just,
sidewall.
you're starting to kind of see the mentality in the videos that are being posted. And it's one thing to have your own opinions, and I'm fine with it. I don't have to agree with it. But when you feel that it is your responsibility to do something, to make a decision for a kid, and you're not his parent, that's where you got to draw the line. It just is.
From a position of influence and authority over kids who don't know any better too.
Yeah, because you ultimately start to sow doubt in a kid's head. Like, that kid was held back a year. You weren't held back a year. You see how much of an advantage he has over you. Like, no, that's not how we have weight classes for a reason. You get to a certain point where it doesn't matter how many years you were held back. You step on the scale, and if you get your ass kicked when you get on the mat, you get your ass kicked when you get on the mat. Like, it doesn't really, yeah, like it doesn't matter whatsoever, right? Like, a kid can be a senior wrestling. I can remember so many guys that when we were in high school, a senior wrestling 103 back then against some freshmen. And it didn't matter. It doesn't matter. When you get on the mat, you just got to wrestle, right? How many years a kid is held back doesn't really make much of a difference. So the correlation of there's so much opportunity out there, and you should be held back so that you can, seize the opportunity. Well, what if you're held back and you miss the opportunity? What if you're held back and you get injured and those opportunities are gone? What if you get held back in the weight class that you thought you would be in, you can no longer make? And since you were held back, you missed that year of possibly competing in a weight class where you could have been strong at. So there's so many different factors in this that I was just like scratching my head when I saw, like I said, when I saw it, I had multiple people send it to me. It was in multiple group chats, and obviously it was all over Twitter, and everybody was giving their takes and stuff like that. But like, the thing for me was the amount of people and the amount of coaches who I respect that had a take on this that just said it was flat out wrong for him to point to kids around the room and say, you didn't listen to me, you should have listened to me, or, you were too dumb to do this. Like, I get it. I had way rougher coaches growing up than this kid will ever be. But it's just not your place. And it's trying to bring a college mindset of who should redshirt and who shouldn't into an elementary classroom, essentially. And it just ain't right, in my opinion. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next thing?
Say, it is kind of cool to be the first person in your grade to get your driver's license in high school. That's one benefit, of that. But yeah, Doc, all jokes aside, it was because that guy comes across my algorithm once in a while, and some of the technique stuff he shows is, pretty solid stuff. And this guy in college does it. Cool. Yeah. He seemed like a decent guy. And then this one came up, and then I went on a, rabbit hole of some of these other ones. And I was like, oh yeah, I must only see the good ones that come across my timeline, because there's some in there that are like, what is he talking about?
Yeah. And maybe I missed the parents coming and defending this, the parents of these wrestlers defending it and saying, he's a great coach, we love him, whatever. Maybe I missed that stuff. But I didn't see it. I saw a lot of people saying, this is out of bounds, you're crossing the line, this isn't a conversation that you should be having with kids of this age. And you shouldn't be broaching that sort of conversation, right?
Especially
so
not in a public forum and posting it all over. And like, I don't know,
Yeah.
going back to the same thing. Like, if you're effectively you're calling my kid dumb in a national, you're just putting that out there. There's so many things that are wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll happily go to the trampoline park when you go to the trampoline park.
Well, you guys are closer to the state that he lives in than I am. But I don't know. Let's move on to some other new age stuff, and that is the marketing that we're seeing coming from Bo Bassett. And a lot of people have a lot of things to say about how he's going about his recruitment. Every Wednesday, there is an update. There's less logos on the graphic. There's a newsletter. He has his own website. He's doing technique. He's doing a lot of different things to monetize his name, image, and likeness. And the thing is he's been doing this before NIL was really truly a thing. Bo Bassett has had his own website, his own podcast. He's been doing all of these things for a very, very long time. And I think, we talked about this before when it was brand new, when that graphic still had 70 logos on it. When we talked about it, my take is kind of changed on it, where I think I've softened, because I'm always going to be more for the athlete than I am for really anybody in any sport when it comes to athletes getting what they deserve. And he's not breaking any rules. He's not doing anything wrong. I think he's just annoying people, I think is really what it is, because every Wednesday he's in their news cycle. But as a content professional that I am, and somebody who has literally been doing things content wise and media wise for probably just as long as Bo Bassett has been alive, um, which is crazy to think. Um, he's doing a great job, honestly. And I have to kind of tip my hat to him, where he has a great cadence of things. He has people tuning in. He's able to monetize things. So I think he's doing an incredible job. And I'm starting to kind of like it. And maybe I'm starting to kind of like what he's doing, because I see how much people are hating on what he's doing. But it's like any other thing, right? Like the NFL, every single day you see something from the NFL. When it's basketball season, you see something, right now, think about it. Caitlin Clark, you see her face every damn day. So like we have athletes in every single sport whose name, image, and likeness, whether it's them putting out or the media putting it out, that are doing their own job. Bo Bassett has taken complete control of his own narrative, where, like I said, we see Caitlin Clark all the time. She's not in control of her own narrative. Bo Bassett is. And I think that's the most fascinating thing, is like somebody who isn't even in college yet is going to go off to college and enter some business school or some, journalism school or whatever else, or some marketing major, and have all of this knowledge of things he's already done. And I think that is incredible. So I think I'm softening on it, where, like I said, like originally I was like, man, this is going to get to me. But like, as I've seen him do more and more, and not for nothing, I think we can all narrow it down to a couple of schools that we truly feel are going to be his top 5 at the end. But the way that he's gone about it, for me, I'm just like, I like it. And Austin, I want your take, because I know you were the old man shaking his fist at the clouds the last time we brought this up. Have you changed your mind on this, or has it become more annoying for you as well?
Well, I don't know if I was the old man shaking the clouds. I think I played the fence a little bit. I was
Maybe a
seeing
little.
both sides of it, yeah, to put it fairly. Um, but no, I like you said, he's making money doing it, right? He's
Mhm.
not doing it because, yeah, I mean, he likes it obviously, but he's not doing it just to do it. Like, I'm sure he is getting monetized. He's getting his name out there. He's getting his story out there. And kind of piggyback on what you said, it's experience for the future, getting into classes. He's going to know what all this is. It's going to be a breeze for him getting into school. And if for some reason this wrestling thing doesn't work out, he has a career already lined up,
Mhm.
to whether it's consulting and coaching or doing something with this side of it. So yeah, it's all good stuff. And I said, like, I think I'm coming around more towards liking it. And I'm not as old as I maybe once was, what I said originally, but I think it's good for the sport. I think more people are going to follow it. My only concern is, I think we talked about last time too. There might be some kids maybe not as newsworthy trying to do replicating what he's doing, right?
Mhm.
Bo Bassett is a talent that comes around once every so often, and soon I think too many high school kids are going to be trying replicating this when maybe it's not quite as maybe not deserved or not as required, from the wrestling people. So I think that's the downfall of it too. Everyone's going to try and replicate this when not everyone's Bo Bassett. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And I've kind of gone the other way on it. Like initially it was like whatever, but I think it's bothered me the more it's gone on. And I think, with that being said, Bo is a phenomenal talent. He's certainly special in a lot of ways. He does a great job getting himself out there with the podcast, with the videos, with the workout stuff that he's done for years. But I think what bothers me about it is that it feels disingenuous. And I
At
think
this point
it's
right now, you mean, or initially?
still both. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the schools on that list never had a chance with him. We know that there's, blue chip recruits are going to be locked into a certain subset of schools. And it's, unless there's some super connection with them, with a specific school, like, Kyle Snyder had a good chance at going to Maryland because he practiced there a lot, worked out there a lot, ended up going to a blue blood program, right? But with there's connections like that, that makes sense. The same reason he has Johnstown on there. He's from Johnstown. I mean, that makes sense that stays on there. But is he going to a D2 school? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the fact that it continues to go on, and there's still multiple schools on there that we know you're not going to. We know and the fact that I know a lot of those coaches have never actually talked to them, despite the fact that they reached out to him. So let's not act like it's real that you're actually considering these schools. Like, I like the shtick. I like the idea of, I'm putting my recruiting out there and being open about it, but let's not play a game with it. Let's be real about it. Let's talk about the, 5 to 10 schools you're actually interested in, and let's get good information about how you're getting recruited and what the process actually looks like. Not, butter it up with some nonsense. You're not going to Sacred Heart. Come on. Nothing against them, but Bo Bassett is not going to Sacred Heart. And to have them on the list initially, it's silly. And I don't know. Maybe I'm the old man yelling at the clouds now.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain schools that you just know they don't measure up when it comes to what he's looking for and what's needed.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel you on that regard. It's almost become like an episode of The Bachelor where who's going to get a rose this week? You know what I mean? And like I said, I love him. I think he's an awesome kid. I think he's a great hard worker, both on and off the mat. It's just, I think you're right about that. But like I said, I've softened on it because I'm just like, he has people captivated. He's giving people a glimpse into what his world is more so than what we normally see for a recruiting period. The recruiting period opens and it's open season, and it's this long episode of, like I said, the wrestling bachelor.
But I would love for that to be more genuine. Like, that would be awesome. It would be really cool for people to actually see what the recruiting process looks like. And for people who haven't seen it up close or haven't gone through it, to see, what those calls look like, what the interactions look like, deciding between which schools to take your official visits to. Like, it's a really interesting process, but the level of not reality around it it makes it tougher for me. Like, I'd love it for it to be more real.
Yeah, Robbie,
especially with a guy like that who's so marketable and speaks so well and handles himself so well. Like, I've been impressed with him in the interactions I've had with him. Super nice kid. But let's be real. And if you want to give people a real picture of this and you want people to be open about it, then let's show what's really going on and be honest about it.
Yeah, it would be cool to have a weekly update of, hey, I talked to Coach X from this school. Here's what we talked about. Here's my pros about this school. Here are some cons, and here's why I'm thinking about going there, and, leave NIL and stuff out of it because I think that's between him. But, I think it would be good to get an inside scoop on what some of these coaches are offering, what they're saying, and, what his thoughts are as a student athlete, getting wine and dine by these guys, and what his thoughts are in the process. I think that would be awesome to do as well.
I feel like the clouds Robbie, that you're shaking your fist at are shaped like a digital clock that reads 4:58 a.m. You know, like I don't know, man. I'm all in on this. Like the kid's doing what he wants to do and he's having fun with it. And obviously, again, like if the results match up with what he's trying to do, which they have consistently, I have no problem. You know, I was trying to think about it too. I mean, you know, I think about my uh uh nieces who are a little younger than that, but like I'm just trying to think about what they do, and they're all doing social media, digital stuff. They're recording these videos and recreating movies that they've seen or scenes from it or whatever, and trying to get those right so that they can post them out there. They're just having fun with it. And you know, granted, this is a little bit more directed and results in a little bit more uh, uh, you know, monetary success, and obviously he's got a much larger platform than you know, my relatives do. But with that being said, you know, he's not the first kid who's been in the wrestling media avenue and has had some success, right? I was just thinking about it. I was like, yeah, it was Home Man Advantage with, you know, Sam Herrig and Jude Swisher, who again weren't necessarily at the same level that Bo Bassett is, but still, like those guys have gone on to do their own things, and it was just kids who really loved the sport trying to have fun with it and be in the media environment. So, um, I don't know, man. I'm not shaking my fist at anything. I'm too old to worry about what this kid's doing with his time. You know, I got dishes to take care of and 3 kids of my own to worry about. So I don't know, man. I like what he's doing. He seems to be having fun. He's not hurting anybody. It's probably fun, you know, it's probably a good thing, honestly, for him to post stuff and see people getting butthurt about it and, you know, posting crappy comments and being mature enough to handle it. You know, that takes some repetition and practice, just like anything else does. So,
Do you think he
um,
made like a dartboard out of the picture of all the schools and he just throws it at which ones
yeah,
to get rid of every week?
that'd be cool. Yeah, I'd like to see how good he is at darts. Let's post some of those videos.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I pretend I'm not didn't hit that school. That school's still on
It just
there.
keeps bouncing
Yeah.
off of Johnstown.
Yeah,
But
I just
I'm in on it, man.
no, like I said, I originally I think I was of the mindset that Robbie was in the beginning, where I was like, okay, we know that a lot of these schools aren't going to happen. They don't have the resources, they don't have the money, they just don't have it, right? They don't measure up. So why are they on there?
He's got to stick to the bit, you
I
know?
get it. I get it. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't see him going to even like you and I, right? I couldn't see him going there, even though Schwab, if I was him, Schwab, they'd be in my top 5 immediately, right? Like, but I can't see him being there. One, I can't really see him leaving the East Coast. I can't.
He probably doesn't like to have exercise balls thrown at him either.
Those big red balls, they've kind of they made a name for themselves in their own right. But yeah, I can't see Bo even leaving the East Coast. And you know, Austin, I
Do you
love
even
your
see him leaving
idea.
Pennsylvania though? I mean,
Uh yes, if you yes, Cornell
Not,
is on there,
not
Princeton
too
is
far
on
from
there.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah, not too far, but still, like I mean, I think Cornell is there. I mean, Ohio State is still on that graphic. So I don't think he goes too far. I think he goes within driving distance of getting home. Um, but yeah, I so Pennsylvania, I do think he would leave the state. Um, but I think every single one of the, you know, blue chip recruits coming out of Pennsylvania is going to hope that they get a call from Kale Sanderson. You know, let's just call it what it is. Like, he's one of the goats. You're going to want to get a call from him. It's just like wanting to get a call from John Smith back in the day is now wanting to get a call from David Taylor. You know, so I don't I don't I don't know if he'll end up at Penn State. I have no intel whatsoever on you know, where Bo Bassett is going to be going.
they're
But
still on there. They're still on the list.
yeah, but I don't see him leaving the East Coast, just like to call it what it is. And you know, obviously the resources, the partners, the, you know, the support, the school, and then the NIL, which I want to dig a little bit more into holistically, is going to be a factor for Bo Bassett, but it's kind of yet to be seen, right? And like I said, I do think he stays on the East Coast. I don't think that he heads out to Oklahoma State. If he does, I wouldn't be shocked. You know what I mean? David Taylor is there. Um, so for a lot of these guys that are in high school right now, they've grown up watching David Taylor, just like David Taylor grew up watching Kale. You know what I mean? So I think that that's going to be there. But like I said, I think it's a race between Cornell, Ohio State, Penn State, trying to think who else.
Johnstown.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're 5B in that regard.
You want to hear something funny real fast?
I think I was on the list too, but I don't think he goes there.
When I go to the Home Man Advantage podcast and I go to the website and I go to about HMA, one of the comments on here, there's two thoughts about HMA. One of them is from Bo Bassett, July 9th, 2019. It says, "What's up, Stam? It's Bo." So he's been in the game for a minute. All right. This isn't a new thing he started.
Yeah. And yeah, he has definitely been doing these things. I can remember when I first saw him shooting a video in his room, and I'm like, this kid is about it. And he, had a tiny little squeaky voice, and I'm like, this kid loves wrestling. So but yeah, I think I was gonna be on that list, of course, as well. But yeah, I think it's a Cornell, Penn State, Iowa. These are my guesses. Ohio State and Oklahoma State is what I think his top 5 will be. And in
5B.
5B, yeah, will be Johnstown. But it's in no order. Like I said, I have zero intel. That's just me looking at the graphic and saying, I think this is where he could potentially end up. I don't see him taking Iowa off of his list just because it's Iowa. I don't see him taking Oklahoma State off his list because it's Oklahoma State. But for me, I think it's either Penn State, Ohio State, or Cornell will be the top 3. And that's, like I said, I'm throwing darts at my dartboard right now, thinking what could potentially happen, and just looking at the graphic, which I have on my second screen over here, of like where I think he could potentially end up, which shouldn't shock anyone.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Iowa, and if the rumors are true that they're offering, Buchanan $1 million for one semester, what's that offer going to be to Bo Bassett? What's that going to equal? Like, is there a ceiling to this NIL stuff too? And a guy like Bo Bassett, he's probably worth however much you want to throw at the guy, because he's going to get you, assumably 4 titles, 5 if you had this extra eligibility stuff they're talking about, right? But
let's also take into account though that with as quickly as everything is changing in the landscape, like what is it actually going to look like when he gets to college?
Yeah, and
we can hit on the holdback part because he was held back, but what's the environment actually going to be? I mean, we're hearing the numbers for single semester transfers. We're hearing some numbers for some blue chip recruits. What is it going to be for him? Is that going to have shifted back to being more realistic than it is right now? Because it's not sustainable the way it is. And we know that. And with the shifting to the 30, with the roster limits, there's going to be a lot of changes coming down the pipe. And, what's it going to look like when he's actually signing his letter of intent?
Yeah. So I have another like side podcast that I do called the Athletes Podcast. Not a plug, but it kind of helps with the story. And we discuss these things like all the time, like NIL and what's happening with, how these athletes are going to be paid and, all these different things. And one of the things we talked about today when I was talking with one of the other guy that I work with for that podcast is about how NIL currently works and how it's going to work, right? And how it currently works is the collectives are like, yes, the collectives are basically like, hey, here's your NIL deal, and they're signing them to these companies and saying that they're doing XYZ. When things change and NIL deals go in-house, the schools are going to have to submit these things to the NCAA. They already do, but it's a lot easier for them to kind of skirt around these rules because the NCAA is going to be looking at these things with a fine-tooth comb because the money is now coming from the NCAA with rev share, and it's also coming from the schools, not these collectives that cannot act on part of the school. So the question that we had posed today is when things go in-house with NIL, what's going to happen when these schools have to submit these things to the NCAA and, say a Buchanan or a Teamer or a Parco is getting some sort of crazy figure thrown at them and they have to give them proof of what their NIL deal truly is. And then you're going to really see how things change because you have to say, oh, his NIL deal is to promote my business, which is such and such car dealership. But then when you look at their social media feeds and you don't see one damn post about, Iowa Hawkeye or Cowboy Chevrolet anywhere to be found, NCAA is going to be like, well, wait a second. What's truly happening here? So like, Austin, when you say that, like what's NIL going to look like when Bo gets there? It's going to be drastically different because all these things are going to take hold and they're going to have to say, oh, well, when we were recruiting him as a junior in high school and we offered him X amount of dollars in his NIL deal, all that's now changed because the NCAA can say, well, that wasn't on the up and up. So whatever you offered him to come here, we're not granting this. So that's going to change some minds. That's going to change a lot of stuff.
You got to believe that the NCAA is going to come down hard on it because they, for as hard as they fought to keep NIL out of it, when it became available, they were kind of hands off and said, you do whatever. We have nothing to do with this. But now that they are going to have oversight over it, you know how they are with oversight, especially when there's something that they don't like. They're going to nitpick every little thing. And, maybe wrestling will kind of fall through the cracks because it's wrestling and sometimes we fall through the cracks.
Yes.
They're certainly going to be a lot more concerned with the $3 million that some basketball players are getting. But when we have these numbers that we're hearing that aren't, realistic, nobody's going to make that much money as a wrestler after college. Like it's the best coaches in our sport don't make that kind of money, at least on the front end. Like it's not sustainable. It's not realistic to think that this is going to continue.
That's why David Taylor's deal was so big because he's getting $1 million a year plus an annual raise every year where it's going to be over $1 million. But that's why it was such a huge deal. Even when Dresser got his deal at Iowa State, where they were like, whoa, this is big money. And now David Taylor's getting his deal and Kale is essentially going to get whatever his is. But you're right. Like those coaches aren't making that. So how are we going to pay these athletes this amount of money if the coaches aren't?
Especially not even for a full year or full 4 years. Like it's not sustainable. And it's kind of like a gold rush. Like there's a boom. People are feeding into it and it's going to go belly up and we're going to have a big mess in a couple of years. And, we'll see where we go from it. But how is that going to affect the kids who are currently being recruited? Because it's going to be a drastically different environment. And I think, and kind of coming back to where this would be a really interesting thing to actually get insight on from Bo, like if he was being open and forthright about this kind of stuff, what are these offers looking like now versus what is he actually going to be able to get when that landscape changes? Like just kind of big picture, it'd be really interesting to hear.
Real quick though, just a quick counter to that. The first thing that happens if he starts talking about what offers look like and what the structure of his recruiting trip looks like and everything is somebody's going to post some negative comments about like, oh, look at this guy bragging about what he's being offered, there's no winning. All right.
And those offers might stop, and those offers might stop coming too.
Right.
But that's what he's bringing on himself with making this such a public thing though, too, is he's inviting all the negativity from those programs that he's not really looking at, and from the people who are on that side. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you and hear what you're saying, but with him making this such a public spectacle, that's what he's inviting.
I think it's a kid who's having fun with it, and if people are gonna get angry, like I've made jokes about like, oh, he took Central Michigan off there, damn you, it's like, but like I'm not making fun of Bo there. I'm making fun of the people who actually do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
who should be made fun of, and I will continue to.
Yes, some people deserve to be mocked.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think NIL is it's obviously going to be changing. The settlement in the court case is going to be taking hold in 2025, 2026. So it'll definitely be different. And when it is, the game certainly does change. It completely changes. And these guys who are being offered NIL deals through the donors and the collectives, and they're entering the transfer portal, or not, or maybe even not even entering the transfer portal, as we
Really
just
don't have
saw.
to
You don't
anymore.
even, you don't even, I mean, you don't, honestly, because you can just enroll at a school. The transfer portal, and thankfully, Willie and Earl, when the three of us were talking in our group the other day, we're talking about like how it all worked, where the transfer portal is literally just there so that coaches know that you are available to be re-recruited. That's the purpose that it serves. So if you don't want to be recruited, if you're just like, I want to go there, I can reach out to that coach and I can reach out to that school. And if you're in good academic standing and things transfer, you can enroll in that school. That's all it is. And I feel like everybody, myself included, we were like, well, wait, what the hell is going on? Like, I thought that you had to enter the transfer portal in order to transfer, when in actuality, you really don't. Because we forgot that there are normal students at schools that don't have a transfer portal. Transfer portal is just for athletes. If you are an athlete, you can still transfer like a normal student does. And a normal student just withdraws from one school and enrolls in another. And that's literally everything that was going on. Foul play is what everybody else is arguing, saying they were offered X amount of money to just enroll here. So that's what people are more pissed off about.
And an important comment though, and I think where obviously a lot has changed is like, you look at like the Metcalf situation where they were at Virginia Tech, they weren't granted their release. And again, I know all of that has changed, but like, I think that's where some of the misconceptions come in. You still think that there are some obstacles in the way of you just taking yourself out of one school and going to another school, when the reality is that nope, there is nothing now.
There's got to be something though. I mean, maybe I'm wrong,
credits and academic standards.
Yeah, I had heard that that Arizona State was trying to fight Ja'Cory leaving. I'd heard that it was a possibility of them trying to stand in the way of him leaving and going to Iowa, rightfully so. So I think there are still some things that you can do.
Because I mean, I remember like
you have to sign off on a transfer, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, interconference transfers used to be like you had to sit out for a semester or for a year. Like there's always been some kind of weird stipulations with it. And then adding the portal to that just kind of, muddies the waters even more.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, the portal is literally just there so that coaches know that you're open for business here once again, right? And there are guys who become open for business without going into the portal, and there's been a number of athletes that have been paid to go into the portal and then they transfer. It's been happening in a ton of other sports as well. I don't know how prominent it is in wrestling, because obviously it's a very small group of people and people keep things tight knit. As much as there is a lot of talk and a lot of rumors, and as much as we know that we don't say when we are recording, like there's enough news that is out there that, it's just the rumor mill is so big in wrestling because we wait for the news to be broken by the people who are part of it.
Or you could recklessly speculate and just throw shit out there if it clicks.
Exactly.
There's that too.
Thank God I'm not one of those people. I think those are called morals. I know. Those damn journalism classes.
Tricky things.
They got me. A damn upbringing. My freaking parents. They gave them to me.
Stupid integrity.
Right? Like, goodness
It
gracious.
stopped me from doing a lot of fun things.
Why do I have to be such a good person to the people that I actually like in this sport when they tell me things and they tell me in confidence? Go figure. But no, I mean, that's why the rumor mill is as big as it is. But I know we wanted to get to the trials, but I think we're gonna hold off on that. We've been talking about a lot of stuff for a pretty long time. So I think the trials
Hey,
is
you know
going
who's
to
wrestling in
warrant.
the trials?
Who's that?
Jay Ayala.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, let's
Full
go.
circle.
Hey, get
full
the vest
circle.
back on.
He's on here. He's on this list that's in front of me right now. But I think we're gonna give the trials its own episode next week. We'll discuss and do a full trials episode. And by then we'll have, I believe, probably everyone will be part of the mix. But I will say right now, things are on the men's freestyle side of things. Things are looking even on the women's side. The women have a good amount of wrestlers that are in and that
There's
are
some
on this
spicy
list.
names in there.
Yeah, there's some pretty good ones in the freestyle overall freestyle ranks. Greco, not so much. Greco, I'd like to see some things start to grow, especially with how well our junior team is doing. Right, they collected a couple of medals at Worlds with our U17 team. So hopefully things continue to kind of transfer for us. But yeah, let's hold off on talking trials until next week. Um, any other hot topics that you guys had seen you want to discuss, or should we call it a night?
I did walk by a hot topic at the mall the other day.
I was just gonna ask if there's still are hot topics.
It still exists.
Or there still
They
are
do.
malls.
It still exists. There is a hot topic here in Texas as well.
If you want a black hoodie with like a weird logo on it, that's your spot.
Or like a good Snoop Dogg T-shirt.
Yeah.
Or like any of those
Anything
old
with lots of
ones.
studs on it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're now a month away from Halloween, so you better take note of where Hot Topic is. Go get your Halloween costume.
Are we gonna dress up in Halloween costumes on our Halloween episode?
We can.
Yeah,
That's
I'll be
actually my. It's the day before my birthday too, so we can.
I'll be a tool wearing a vest, according to Earl.
Some people call it pumpkin spice latte season. Some people call it football season. To Robbie, it's vest.
It's vest season.
Vest season never ends. Just in the summer, it's just the vest with no shirt under it. That's all.
I honestly cannot wait to see if the vest continues at Oklahoma State. So far, it's a no. I haven't seen it yet.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
You know that John had to have
retired.
like 3 rooms of his house just dedicated to vests. He had to have like 6 walk-in closets full of vests.
I remember going to Oklahoma State once, and he had a number of vests in his office, hanging in his office. It was
casual, dress, sport.
It's pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive.
Cold weather, warm weather. There's lots of options.
Did you guys see the picture of retirement John Smith? He's grown a beard.
What?
He looks good too. He looks happy.
Retirement John Smith has a beard, and it's a full beard too. Man looks
very
good.
gray as well.
Looks seasoned. Looks full retirement.
And that makes me happy.
Good.
I don't know why.
He looked in the pictures I saw. He looked pretty relieved as well. Like he no longer had to, kind of the same look that Nick Saban has, where he doesn't have to put up with teenage kids asking for millions of dollars.
Until he's on the set on College Game Day, sitting next to fucking McAfee.
Yeah.
And it's like dealing with toddlers.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I think we can call it a night. The only thing I do want to plug is Elite 8 duels. That will be coming up next week. I will be there with my crew, calling some very, very awesome high school wrestling matches. We're going to have some content. Myself and Willie are going to put out some content. We'll have the pools probably next week. I just talked to I talk to him every single day, but I talked to him earlier this morning about that. So the pools will be coming out next week. The rosters will also be coming out maybe later on this week, but yeah, be on the lookout for Elite 8 duels. It's going to be going down. I will be there. I'll be pulling some content, getting some interviews and stuff. But it's the folk style one. It is not the freestyle one. So it should be a really good time. Really, really good time. It's always awesome to see high level kids wrestling against other high level kids. And
It's always a good event too.
it's a
Does a
really
job
good
with that
event. Fretwell does and I'm not saying this because he's, like family to me. He does an awesome job running it. It's first class, honestly. It really, really is. And everybody enjoys it. And we've had a couple of fights over the years. Things have gotten a little bit chippy, but it's an awesome event. So be on the lookout for some Elite Eight content and be on the lookout for Elite Eight duels coming. That will be, when is that? The 21st is the week after the trials. So I'll be headed to Atlanta for some good scrapping. And yeah, that's all I got. You got any parting words for our adoring fans before
Next time you talk to Fretwell, ask him if Compound has any vests for me.
I will see if Compound has any vests, but I'm sure he would make one. I'm sure he would. I'm sure he can probably make one.
Make that happen. Get a pop and cliff.
Get a Compound vest. That would be pretty dope. Fretwell's he does a really good job. The sweatshirt, I had a sweatshirt made, the commemorative sweatshirt I made for my uncle was done by Compound. So they do a really, really good job. So love those guys. They're, like I said, they're like family to me. And Elite Eight's going to be awesome as it is. So, but yeah, another awesome show. A lot of people commented on the last one, so bring in more of those comments. If you guys have any questions, there was a question about Burroughs in the last episode that we'll get to when we do the preview of the trials. But yeah, if there are any questions that people have about trials, that show will be next. So throw them in the comments, like, subscribe, all those things. Hit us up on Twitter, tag us on whatever you really want, as long as it's not really stupid.
Yeah, no anti-vest slander.
I'm going full anti-vest next week, honestly. Full anti-vest.
I'm only wearing sleeves.
Only wearing sleeves, yeah.
Only wearing sleeves next week.
Dude, you're gonna look like Jax from Mortal Kombat.
Maybe that's this year's Halloween costume. He may have just given me an idea of going as Jax. So yeah, but no. Awesome show, gentlemen. Always fun talking some shit and having some fun. We'll see you guys next week.